In the dead of night, when the city of Eldoria slept, a phantom moved through its wealthiest avenues. They called him the Shadow Collector. He wasn't just a thief. He was a specter, a whisper in the dark, who left behind not just empty safes, but a chilling sense of dread. The wealthiest families, once secure in their mansions, now double-checked their locks, their sleep punctuated by every creak and groan of their sprawling homes. The Shadow Collector never forced a lock, never broke a window. He simply appeared, took the most priceless heirloom, a diamond necklace, a rare painting, a historical artifact, and vanished, leaving behind a single, perfectly preserved black rose. The city's police force was baffled. For 6 months, they chased shadows, interviewed terrified victims who could only describe a fleeting glimpse of a tall, slender figure, and analyzed crime scenes that were maddeningly clean. The media dubbed it the Nexus of Nightmares, a reign of terror that had the city's elite in its grip. Fear was the new currency in Eldoria. Private security firms saw their business triple, but even the most advanced systems seemed useless. The Shadow Collector was more than a man. Was a myth. A ghost story come to life. The Black Rose became a symbol of his omnipresence, a taunt to the authorities, and a promise of his inevitable return. As public pressure mounted, the mayor made a desperate call. He reached out to a man who had long since retired, a legend in the world of criminal investigation, Arthur Pendelton. Pendelton was a relic from a bygone era, a detective who relied not on flashy technology but on a mind sharpened by decades of unraveling the most complex human puzzles. He lived a quiet life in a secluded cottage, surrounded by books and memories. When the mayor's envoy arrived, Pendelton was initially hesitant. His days of chasing phantoms were over, or so he thought, but as he read the case files, a familiar spark ignited in his old eyes. The audacity, the precision, the theatricality of the Shadow Collector. It was a challenge he couldn't resist. Pendelton arrived in Eldoria not with a team of forensics experts, but with a simple leather-bound notebook and a fountain pen. He ignored the high-tech command center and instead chose to walk the streets, to breathe the city's fearful air. He started by visiting the victims, not to re-examine the crime scenes, but to talk to the people. He didn't ask about security systems or missing items. He asked about their lives, their families, their histories. He listened to their stories, patiently absorbing details the police had deemed irrelevant. He learned of rivalries, of forgotten debts, of secret passions. He was building a map, not of the city's geography, but of its soul. One victim, a wealthy heiress named Eleanor Vance, mentioned something peculiar. The night she was robbed of a priceless fabric egg, she had been hosting a small, exclusive charity auction. The thief had struck while the event was in full swing, somehow bypassing dozens of guests and security. Pendelton's brow furrowed. It wasn't a bypass. It was a camouflage. The thief hadn't broken in. He was already inside. This was the breakthrough. The Shadow Collector wasn't an outsider. He was one of them, a member of the very elite. He was terrorizing. He was using his access, his knowledge of their homes and their routines, to orchestrate these impossible heists. Pendelton's focus shifted. He cross-referenced the guest lists from every event that coincided with the robbery. A pattern began to emerge. One name appeared on every single list, a name so respected, so unimpeachable, that no one had ever thought to suspect him. Julian Croft, the city's most renowned art and antiquities appraiser. Croft was the man the wealthy trusted to value their precious possessions. He had intimate knowledge of their collections, their security, and their social calendars. He was the fox guarding the henhouse. But motive was still a mystery. Croft was wealthy in his own right. Why would he risk everything? Pendelton delved into Croft's past. He discovered that decades ago, Croft's family had been one of the most prominent in Eldoria, but they had lost their entire fortune due to a series of betrayals by the very families Croft was now targeting. Their prized possessions, their heirlooms, were bought for pennies on the dollar by their supposed friends. This wasn't about money. It was about revenge. Croft wasn't stealing for profit. He was reclaiming what he believed was his family's stolen legacy. The Black Rose wasn't a taunt. It was a symbol of his mourning, a tribute to the family honor he was restoring, one stolen piece at a time. The final act was set. Pendelton knew Croft's next target would be the centerpiece of the upcoming founder, Escala, the legendary star of Eldoria Daima. It was the very jewel that had sealed his family's ruin. The detective didn't set a police trap. That was too crude, too noisy. Instead, he arranged a private meeting with Croft just hours before the gala, under the guise of an urgent appraisal request. They met in the quiet, dusty archives of the City Museum. Pendleton didn't confront him with accusations. He simply laid out his notebook, opened to a page detailing the Croft family history. He spoke softly, not as a cop to a criminal, but as one man to another. He talked about loss, about legacy, about how revenge was a poison that consumed the drinker. Croft's calm/sophisticated facade began to crack. His hands trembled. He saw in Pendleton's eyes not condemnation, but a flicker of understanding. Pendleton then presented his final piece of evidence, a small, antique locket. It was a simple, silver piece, not particularly valuable, but it had belonged to Croft's mother. Pendleton explained that it was found near the scene of the first robbery, overlooked by everyone. It was the one mistake the ghost had made. At that moment, the weight of his crusade crashed down on Julian Croft. The phantom, the shadow collector, was gone, leaving only a broken man. He confessed everything, leading the police to a hidden vault where every stolen item was perfectly preserved, displayed like a private museum of sorrow and vengeance. The news broke the next morning. The city of Eldoria breathed a collective sigh of relief. The nexus of nightmares was over. The fear that had gripped them for months finally dissipated, replaced by a sense of awe at the quiet, brilliant detective who had seen the man behind the monster. Arthur Pendelton slipped away as quietly as he had arrived, his notebook filled with the story of a ghost who was finally laid to rest. And that's the tale of the Shadow Collector. A story that reminds us that sometimes the greatest monsters are born from the deepest pain. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of darkness, make sure to hit that like button, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe for more mysteries. This is Nexus of Nightmares, signing out.